"Liam, I choose Maya. I want her to be my mom." Liam's voice rang out clear as a bronze bell in the grand hall, cutting through the clink of glasses and polite chatter. The little boy in his pale blue suit stood tall, his small finger pointing past 3 glamorous models, straight at Maya Williams, a black woman in a navy blue uniform who had just stepped in, still holding a tray of tools. A few gasps escaped. The chandeliers cast a cold light over Maya's brown skin, glinting on the damp marks from cleaning water on her hands. "No, Liam." Michael Harrington's voice cracked like thunder, shattering the room's conversations. "That filthy maid will never be your mother." A frozen silence fell. The 3 models glanced at each other with mocking smiles. Brooke, in silver, gave a sharp sniff. "She cleans toilets, Liam. Do you think your late mother would approve?" Vanessa, in emerald, leaned in, voice dripping with scorn. "Look at her. Grease on her hands, dust in her hair. You want a woman like that teaching you how to be a gentleman?" Scarlett, in deep red, smiled like a blade. "She came from the mud, and she'll stay in the mud. Her mother probably scrubbed floors on her knees, too." Maya gripped the tray handle tighter, her eyes darkening. She had heard words like these all her life, in hallways, in elevators, behind smirks. But when they dragged her mother into it, something cracked in her chest. She stepped forward, her voice low but firm. "Don't talk about my mother, and don't ever speak about the people I love that way." Laughter rippled back. Scarlett drew out the word noble like a taunt. Liam stepped closer, his eyes reddening. "Dad, don't talk to Maya like that. She's my family." "Enough." Michael snatched a crystal glass from the table, yanking it off its linen and hurled it. The hiss of air was followed by a sharp crash. Glass exploding against Maya's temple, water splashing, shards scattering in the light. She staggered, hand to her head, warm blood seeping between her fingers. "Get out of my house," Michael roared, his face flushed. "You're fired. Pack your things and be gone before morning." Liam cried out, "No! She's my mom." Michael dragged his son toward the stairs. Guests lowered their heads, pretending not to see, parting like water. That night in the gilded bedroom, Liam buried his face in the pillow, sobbing. "When I was sick, when I couldn't sleep, Maya was there, you weren't." Michael stared out at the city lights. "Go to sleep, this is over." His voice clanged like cold metal. The next morning, the winter sun poured silver across the lawn. Liam wandered aimlessly through the garden to the thinly iced lake. He sat at the stone edge, kicking at pebbles. One misstep, crack, the ice gave way, and black water swallowed him. His scream was snatched away by the wind. Maya heard it. She didn't think. She ran. Her boots tore through frost-crusted grass. She plunged into the water, cold knifing into her lungs. A tiny, flailing hand, she grabbed his wrist, yanking hard toward shore, straining every muscle in her back and shoulders. The ice ripped wider. The water stabbed like needles. "Hold on to me," she gritted, pushing her back to the bank, dragging Liam into the mud. When Michael arrived, Maya was kneeling in the sludge, wrapping her coat around the shivering boy. Liam buried his face in her shoulder, sobbing. Time, power, last night's words, all shattered in Michael's eyes. The truth hit him. It wasn't uniforms or elite approval that mattered. It was the arms that were there when he wasn't. His voice cracked. "Maya, The apology stuck in his throat. He swallowed. "I was wrong. I'm sorry. For the words, the glass, for everything." In the warm kitchen there were towels, ginger tea, and bandages. Maya pressed a wrap to the gash on her temple, blinking against the steam. Michael set down a cup of coffee, his heartbeat clumsy like a teenager's. "I want you to stay, not as the help, but as Liam's full-time caregiver, fair pay, benefits, days off, and the respect you deserve. Maya met his gaze. Not for the money, Mr. Harrington, for respect. If I stay, Liam must be protected from the looks and words like last night's, even from you. Michael nodded, each word a vow. I promise. No one, including me, will treat you like that again. Liam sniffled, eyes bright. You'll stay, right? Maya smoothed his wet hair. If you want me to. Michael gave a small nod. I do. The house, once cold as a museum, warmed, through the kitchen, through the smell of baking, through the small hug of a boy who'd just been returned. That afternoon, snow rimmed the windows. The grand hall was unusually still. Staff moved quietly, as if afraid to disturb something fragile. Upstairs, Liam slept soundly, clutching his stuffed rabbit. Maya sat in the chair beside him, a gentle guard, the white bandage peeking from her hair. Downstairs, Michael canceled the board meeting. He wasn't leaving the house that had almost cost him his son. When an old friend, a retired judge, dropped by, Michael simply said, I've seen my own reflection. The friend smiled wearily. Children see past pride. Don't waste the chance that boy just gave you. Night fell over the city. In the small dining room, for the first time in years, the three of them sat together on a weekday. Liam asked to hold hands before eating. Michael cleared his throat. Liam, I'm sorry for yesterday. I was wrong about Maya. She's staying, not just to work, but because she belongs here as family. Liam grinned. Maya smiled, her eyes misty. Thank you, Michael, she said, dropping the mister like unlocking a door. Outside, the city blazed bright. Inside, hope, something no contract or stock could buy, returned, glowing like a small oil lamp in a snowstorm. The next morning, winter sunlight poured into the kitchen. Patricia Crane, the PR specialist with a knack for putting out fires with ice, walked in holding a tablet. Breaking news, she said. The security camera at the lake caught Maya saving Liam. Someone leaked it. It's trending. Bad for your shark image, Michael, but good for your human image. The internet is calling Maya a hero. Maya froze. There was a camera? Patricia nodded. And millions of views. Michael took a deep breath. Then we take control. From now on, the story is, Maya is family. You sure? Patricia raised an eyebrow. Saying that to the press means no turning back. Michael glanced toward the doorway, where Liam was laughing over pancakes, then nodded. I'm sure. But the storm arrived sooner than expected. That afternoon, the doorbell rang. Brooke, Vanessa, Scarlett walked in, their perfume thick as smoke. We came to make peace, Brooke said sweetly. Vanessa's eyes flicked toward Maya. To help you manage the story, we're the same class, Michael. Scarlett leaned in, her voice honey dripping venom. No matter how well she dresses, she's still the floor scrubber. You think other CEOs will let their kids play with Liam if his mother used to clean floors? They'll laugh behind your back. Maya stayed silent, gripping the wooden spoon until her knuckles turned white. Enough! Michael stepped forward, cold as stone. Get out of my house! Vanessa scoffed. Careful, she just said, my house. Our house, Maya replied. Her calm voice edged with steel. If you can't show respect, there's the door. Scarlett's smile faltered, her eyes flashing resentment. It won't be for long. The door closed, leaving the air charged like a tight violin string. That night, Liam asked, Were they mean to you? Maya ruffled his hair. People who don't understand are the ones who act mean. Our job is to never be like them. The next morning, a stage was set on the east lawn. Cameras, microphones, reporters' frosted breaths in the cold air. Maya stood beside Liam, her hand resting on his shoulder. Michael stepped to the podium. About the incident at the gala and what followed. There's been gossip, there's been prejudice. Today, I'm ending it. Maya Williams is not a maid, she is family. The person my son trusts most. She saved his life. Not just once, but by being there every time I wasn't. She will stay here with full respect and protection. Anyone who can't accept that can leave my life. Flashbulbs popped. Questions flew. Michael raised his hand. That's all. He turned inside. Liam gripped Maya's hand tighter. In that moment, she felt as steady as if she stood on the foundation of this home, not as staff, but as someone who belonged. That afternoon, Michael's phone exploded. Half the calls were, "Congratulations for doing the right thing." The other half, "Watch your image." Among them were 2 curt calls from Harold Pierce and Vincent Lang, board members who'd backed him through many gambles. That evening, in the wood-paneled boardroom, Harold swirled his whiskey. "Michael, we've stood behind you through bigger risks. But elevating a maid to family in front of the media, this is not how you run a corporation." Michael cut in, voice icy. "She's not a maid, she's the person who saved my son's life." Vincent leaned back, voice smooth as oil. "We're not discussing her character. We're discussing risk assessment. You're turning a private matter into a political statement. Wall Street hates blind spots." Michael planted his hands on the table. "If this company doesn't stand on principle, I'm not sure I want a seat in it." The meeting ended with vague promises and eyes counting votes. Outside, Michael exhaled a plume of cold air. The decision was made, and the cost would come. That night, Denise Carter, a short-haired investigative journalist, knocked on the mansion door. "I have something you need." In the living room, she placed a USB on the table. "Vincent is running a smear campaign. They're going to dig into Maya's past, twist every detail to fit the story of climbing for money and a danger to Liam." Maya stiffened. "What do they think they'll find?" Denise met her gaze. "They don't need the truth, they need a frame. And they're building it." Michael gripped his coffee cup handle. "They won't print a single word." Denise shook her head. "They will, unless you get ahead of them. Not with another press conference, but with proof of who's pulling the strings." Michael immediately called Roland Hayes, an old startup friend and a sly cybersecurity expert. "I need every digital trail. Money transfers to tabloid reporters, emails, texts." Roland shrugged. "If there's dust, I'll blow it off." For the next few days, Maya kept her usual routine with Liam, reading in the library, watering plants in the greenhouse. But the phrase, "What will they dig up?" kept gnawing at her mind. On Tuesday afternoon, the streets were swarming. Maya walked Liam to the car after buying craft supplies for a school project. A shrill voice called out, "Maya Williams?" A man with a camera grinned greasily. "Care to comment on the rumor you're more than just a nanny?" Snap! A flash exploded. "Some say you've been plotting since the day you set foot in this house." Maya shielded Liam's shoulder, ushering him into the car. "I don't owe you an answer." The door shut, but his voice slithered in after them. "We'll find out anyway." In his study, Michael heard the account, his anger glowing like embers under snow. "They're escalating," he told Roland. "Good," Roland smirked. "The reckless leave big footprints." 3 nights later, Roland returned with a folder. Recovered emails, payment records to a sleazy tabloid writer, and text instructions to that very paparazzo. The source? A contact linked directly to Vincent Lang. Michael turned each page, his gaze growing colder. Enough to sink him. Maya stood in the doorway, equal parts relieved and uneasy. This was no longer just a battle over reputation, it was a war. The next morning at 9 o'clock the plan went live. Patricia coordinated the exclusive article, lawyers on standby. 9:02, the first story dropped. 9:10, the ticker lit up across the web. 12 o'clock, Vincent went on live TV, calling it all fabricated. The host smiled and read aloud an email from the folder. Vincent froze. Public opinion flipped. But that afternoon, a black SUV pulled up at the gate. Michael stepped out. The window rolled down. Vincent, eyes bloodshot, voice hoarse, spoke, "You think you've won? You've left me with nothing, and a cornered man doesn't play by the rules anymore." Michael stood tall, calm as stone. "You've been breaking the rules since you came after my family." Vincent glanced toward the mansion, smirking. "Family? Call her whatever you want. She'll be the one to drag you under. Remember my words." "I'll only remember." Michael leaned closer to the window, voice low. "That you threatened the people I love." The SUV shifted gears and rolled into the sunset. In the hallway, Maya asked, "What did he want?" Michael looked into her eyes. "To scare me, but he's the one who's scared." Maya shook her head slightly. "Men like him don't back down. We'd better be ready." Late in the morning, the butler brought in 2 large flower arrangements tied with platinum ribbons, the kind of congratulations Michael Harrington's connections often sent when the media wind shifted. Maya Williams caught sight of a black envelope tucked among the roses. She pulled it out. The card's letters seemed carved into the paper. "You won the battle. The war is still mine." The red ink bled like a knife slash. Michael read it with her, his jaw tightening. "Vincent Lang," he muttered. "He's probing the fence, testing how we react, who's allowed in, who gets blocked." Michael called Roland Hayes. "I want eyes on him 24/7, phone, meetings, unusual spending." Roland's smile was thin. "If he so much as twitches, I'll hear his bones creak." Then Michael turned to Patricia Crane. "I'm done playing defense. Let's flip the board. Make him overconfident, push him to overreach on camera." Patricia understood immediately. The charity gala this weekend, reporters everywhere, cameras wall to wall. If he tries anything, we'll have witnesses and a paper trail. "You want me to be the bait?" Maya asked plainly. Not angry, just clarifying. Michael shook his head. "Not bait, the centerpiece, and I'll be right beside you. The plan. You come with me. Roland covers the press room. Patricia handles our trusted editors, lawyers on standby. Anyone who touches you, we pin it on Vincent." The gala night arrived. The historic hotel glowed under chandeliers, mirrored ceilings scattering 1,000 points of light like falling stars. As Michael and Maya strode down the carpet, murmurs rippled. "That's her, the one who saved the boy. The billionaire making the nanny family." Maya kept her back straight, her hand resting lightly on Michael's arm. Liam was home, safe under reinforced security. In the foyer, greetings came, half polite, half probing. A female executive leaned in, voice low. "You look lovely tonight." Her smile had the sharpness of a kitchen knife. Maya offered a polite, measured smile and moved on. Near the bar, Vincent Lang emerged as if stepping from shadow, hair slicked, whiskey glass in hand, eyes sliding over Maya with practiced calm. Michael tilted his head, whispering, "Don't approach." Let him come. 15 minutes later, he did, smiling like glue. "Michael, Maya, enjoying yourselves?" Michael's reply was clipped. "We are." Vincent ignored him, fixing on Maya. "You've dressed up tonight, almost convincing." "Convincing enough to stand here as a guest," Maya said evenly, "and apparently important enough for you to walk over." Vincent leaned in. "You're playing a dangerous game." "The difference," Maya's voice stayed steady, "is that I'm not the one who got caught cheating." A sudden commotion cut through the music. Near the doors, 2 security guards were pinning a man to the marble floor. His camera skidded away, memory cards scattering like silver rain. Roland appeared from nowhere, his voice low and firm. "He's on my list, a paparazzo who sells scandal." And he held up a phone, screen lit with messages. "Paid to plant staged photos in the press room tonight." Michael turned to Patricia. "Call the police, and call the editors you trust." In the skillfully managed chaos that followed, Vincent stepped back, his smile gone. "Enjoy the night," he said smoothly before melting into the crowd. Maya felt her heartbeat quicken, but Michael's hand squeezed hers lightly. "We're fine." Police arrived. A report was filed on the spot. Messages copied, the camera sealed as evidence. Patricia whispered, "Tonight, we don't have to speak. Let the truth do it." On the way home, city lights blurring past the window, Maya leaned her head back and exhaled. "He won't stop," she said. "I know," Michael replied, "but every time he acts, he leaves a trace. And when he doesn't act, then he's watching," Michael said, "and that's when it's most dangerous." The next morning, headlines aligned. Former board member linked to attempted gala scandal setup. Morning news loops showed Vincent leaving the ballroom, jaw tight. Public opinion swung hard in one direction. Patricia allowed herself a rare smile. This one hurt him. But Michael didn't relax. Handing Maya a coffee on the veranda, he said, "When you wound a hunter, he's more dangerous. He'll look for angles we won't expect." Maya was about to answer when she noticed a glint in the pale blue sky, small, metallic, too still to be a bird. She squinted, a chill running down her spine. "Michael," she touched his shoulder, "do you see that?" Above, a speck hung motionless, like an unblinking eye. Breakfast suddenly tasted like metal, and the war had officially moved into the air. "It's not ours," Michael said the moment his eyes followed Maya's pointing finger. He quickly dialed Roland Hayes. "Unauthorized drone overhead. I want it down before it's out of range." 20 minutes later, Roland arrived with a jamming rig. He opened the case, powered it up. In the distance, the metallic speck gave a sudden shudder, then tilted and fell somewhere beyond the north fence like an insect struck mid-flight. Michael shrugged on a coat, speaking fast. "Stay inside with Liam," and took off with Roland toward the crash site. They came back carrying a sleek black quadcopter with an HD camera mounted underneath. Roland exhaled. No memory card, he was streaming live. Maya swallowed hard. From up there, he saw everything? Roland's face was flat. Everything. Michael set the drone on the kitchen counter, his palm pressing into the stone surface as if to anchor something in place. "He's not just looking," he said. "He's probing for cracks." That night, security patrols were doubled. Infrared sensors lined the fence, vibration alarms fitted to the windows. Liam sensed something was different, clinging to Maya more, asking questions she could hardly answer. Are the bad guys looking for us? She smoothed his hair. If they are, we already have a plan. 2 nights later, near midnight, the crash of metal from the east gate shattered the silence. The alarm system screamed. Michael hit the intercom. "Maya, lock Liam's door and don't come out." Holding the boy tight against her, Maya strained to hear the heavy footsteps pounding downstairs. From an upstairs window, flashlight beams slashed across the lawn like spears of light. 10 tense minutes later, silence. Word came. They'd caught a hooded man cutting the gate lock. In his pocket, a USB drive. In the security room, Roland plugged it into an isolated system, watching the screen. Encrypted, could be files, could be a trap. Michael didn't speculate. He called the police, handed over the suspect and the evidence, filing a report that night. "This is a message," Michael told Maya after Liam finally drifted back to sleep. "He's pushing us to the edge, until we slip." Maya held a wine glass she didn't drink from. "I'm scared, not for me, for Liam." Michael looked into her eyes. "I'd burn this house to the ground before I let him touch my son." Something in the way he said it, not just anger but a vow, made it easier for her to breathe. The next morning, the break-in made scattered mention on local stations. No name for the suspect, no word about Vincent. Michael pressed his lawyer. "I want the chain. Who hired, who paid, who received?" That afternoon, Patricia arrived in a rush. "I've picked up pieces. Vincent's not working alone. At least 2 former associates are feeding him resources. If we want to end this, we can't just block punches. We have to dismantle his network." Michael glanced at Maya, then nodded. "Then we go on offense." That night, the unannounced visitor was Elena Ramirez. Hair pulled back, eyes of someone burned out of all illusions. "I know what Vincent is doing, and I want him out of my life," she said as soon as she sat. "It's not just about the company. He wants to destroy everything you have, especially your family. He's got someone inside your house." The living room seemed to contract. Michael paused. "You're sure?" "Positive. He anticipates your moves, cuts you off, because someone's feeding him." A chill ran through Maya. It felt like the house's frame had gone hollow. They formed a tight circle. Michael, Maya, Roland, Patricia, and Elena. First step, limit who knew what. Plant different bait in each information channel to trace where the leaks came from. In the following days, the mansion's atmosphere was like a piano string wound too tight. Whispers behind doors, hesitant glances, footsteps changing rhythm when someone passed. Taking the back stairs, Maya spotted a glint beneath a step, a broken locket. She recognized it instantly. Marie Clark's, Michael's longtime personal assistant. She brought it to his study. Michael sat still for a few seconds, then nodded slowly. Marie's been loyal longer than most, but loyalty has a price. Roland already had a half-finished report. Marie's computer showed unusual traffic at midnight, strange encrypted channels, and 2 unexplained wire transfers into a recently opened account. Put together, the picture wasn't pretty. The confrontation happened at dusk in the wood-paneled reading room. Marie came in with trembling hands. She denied everything at first, her voice cracking word by word. But when Roland laid out the logs, the hidden folders and the transfer records, the truth fell from her eyes. "I never meant to hurt anyone," Marie sobbed. He said he'd protect my family if I just passed along a few harmless details. I was stupid. I thought I was helping." Michael was silent, not with blazing anger, but with the kind of cold tragedy that cuts deeper. "You betrayed your own family, he said quietly, "and nearly destroyed the one that trusted you." There was no shouting, only a report, a signature, and an escort out. When the door closed, Maya stood at the greenhouse windows, the scent of jasmine mixing with the metallic tang of recent days. "We're lucky we caught it," she said. Michael nodded, eyes fixed beyond the tree line. "But he knows that means we're onto him. He'll get worse." Nearby, Liam played with a wooden horse, unaware of the storm that had just grazed the roof. Maya looked at him, feeling a surge of protectiveness like another kind of fence. Not steel, not electric wire, but a promise. That night, the mansion sank into a velvet-thick silence. But they knew now. Silence didn't mean safety. It was only a short breath between waves. Somewhere, on a dark screen, someone was replaying what the drone had seen, taking notes on the way a child's tongue tripped when he laughed, the placement of magnetic locks on certain windows, the timing of the guards' patrols. And in those notes the name Maya Williams was surely underlined in bold. After the exposure of Mole Marie Clark, the atmosphere inside the Harrington estate was as dense as frost clinging to the row of pines. Staff moved softly, spoke softly, as if afraid to brush against a live wire strung along every wall. Maya Williams realized her own walk had changed, always tilting an ear for unfamiliar sounds, scanning dark corners, her hand unconsciously supporting Liam's back each time they passed through a doorway. Fear, when pressed down long enough, becomes habit. Late at night in the study, the tight circle gathered. Michael Harrington, Maya, Patricia Crane, Roland Hayes, and Elena Ramirez. On the large screen, Roland zoomed in on a web of shady transactions. Arrows of money looped through shell companies, crypto wallets, and straw accounts, all pointing to a black dot, a warehouse near the docks. Elena tapped her pen. Vincent uses that place as a hub, moving weapons, encrypted drives, and coordinating cyber attacks. Every night, shipments in and out. Michael's question was immediate. "Plan?" Roland pointed at the layers of cameras, sensors, and guard shifts. "Approach from the east blind spot. Loop the cameras for 7 minutes. We need someone recording inside the operations room." Elena added, "Vincent's right-hand man will be there tomorrow night. If we catch him talking, it's enough to get a broad search warrant." Patricia interjected, "And if we wait for the warrant before going in, he'll clear it out. 2 steps, capture evidence, and call in the police at the exact moment." Maya looked at Michael. "You don't have to go in yourself." Michael shook his head. "I'm going. I've been absent from too many important moments in my son's life. I won't be absent from the moment I protect this home." Their eyes locked for a beat. No more needed saying. Night fell, the city pulling its coat of lights tight around its shoulders. The black SUV slipped through misted streets toward the docks. Roland in the front seat, clutching his toolkit. Elena in back, flipping her fake ID. Michael driving, eyes on the road. Maya beside him, hands folded on her knees. The composure of someone who had long since chosen to stand rather than run. The warehouse rose like a mute concrete block. Sodium lights cast a sickly yellow across the cement. Roland murmured, "Go." He plugged in his device, and the camera feeds unfolded on the screen. The blind spot yawning open like a curtain drawn back. They slipped between stacked containers, cut through a plastic barrier, slid under a truck to avoid a sweep, then pressed along a brick wall scarred with peeling paint. Maya could hear her heartbeat alongside the metallic pops of cold steel expanding. The side door yielded with a soft pry. The smell of grease and old iron hit them. Inside, shelves stacked with crates bore false labels, some lids ajar to reveal static-proof wrapped drives and disguised weapons. At the hall's end, a glass-walled office hung with a drawn curtain. A man's voice leaked out, low, sharp. "Push the leak on Maya. Hit the child endangerment angle. Meanwhile, stage a security incident at the east gate to draw police away." Vincent Lang. No, mistaking it. Elena leaned in, planting a mic. Roland mounted a microcamera on a steel beam. Michael and Maya counted silently. 1, 2, 3, lock. The next lines poured into memory like drops of black rain. The money's moved. The mole's gone. Plan B, burn. Maya met Michael's eyes. The word burn circled in her head like a moth around a flame. Burn what? A faint creak behind them froze the air. A guard had returned early, ahead of Roland's timetable. The flashlight beam caught Maya's legs. "Who's there?" he began. But Roland lunged, striking his flashlight arm with an elbow, his other hand sealing the man's mouth. In a flash, Maya kicked the flashlight away, Michael pulling them both into shadow. The silence was heavy as lead. Then an alarm wailed. Not for them, but because a truck outside had dropped its load. Still, a siren is a siren. The glass office door opened. Vincent stepped out, eyes narrowing, sensing the night's rhythm had shifted. Roland whispered, "Can't hold it, trigger." He pressed the panic button, sending the emergency signal to the police liaison waiting blocks away. Michael strode forward, blocking a deputy with a clipped order. "Cops are coming. Sit down." The man's reflex was to draw a weapon. Maya seized a steel pipe, slammed it into his wrist. The weapon clattered to the floor. Elena swung the camera toward him. "Repeat the plan. Now." In the distance, sirens grew louder, streaks of red and blue cutting the night. The glass office was empty. Vincent gone like smoke, leaving behind a still steaming coffee cup. "He's got a tunnel," Roland muttered, still relaying positions to the incoming police. The main door burst open. A wave of uniforms flooded in. "On the ground! Hands up!" Vincent's men scattered, some dropping weapons, others tackled mid-run. A detective grabbed Roland's mic, replaying Vincent's voice from the recorder. More than enough to charge him. When the warehouse stilled, they stood in a sea of flashing lights. Patricia's voice came over the phone, fingers tapping keys. "Exclusive runs in an hour. His network just cracked." Michael looked at Maya. No dramatic embrace, just a small nod, the kind people give when they know the night's victory is only temporary. Back home, Liam was asleep, arms still around his wooden horse. Maya sat by the bed, listening to his steady breathing while the sea wind still rattled the memory's window panes. Michael leaned on the doorway. "Thank you," he said softly. Maya smiled, tired. "We're only back to the halfway mark." Michael nodded. "Tomorrow, he'll try to burn something." Maya's eyes moved to the family portrait on the wall, her hand tightening into a fist. "Then, let's burn our fear first." Outside, the night receded, but small sparks had already been scattered in each of their minds. The word burn, Vincent had dropped, refusing to die out, a signal that his next strike was already chambered. The morning after the raid, the sun rose late, pale gold like a sickly patient. The gate guard brought in a plain cardboard box with no return address. Under the new protocol, they screened it for bombs, scanned for traps. Nothing triggered. Michael opened it with gloves. Inside was a single piece of blackened, twisted wood, like a charred finger bone, and a scrap of paper scrawled with, "This is what comes next." Maya felt her stomach drop a level. Last night they had stripped Vincent of some of his best operatives. This morning he answered with something you could see, smell, touch. No longer a vague threat, this was fire. Patricia arrived within 15 minutes, talking into her phone as she came in. "We're going to set the narrative before he does. Images of the warehouse, the reports, police statements, those go into the main story. As for this piece of wood, it goes into the legal file, not public yet." Michael nodded, but his eyes stayed on the charred fragment. The word burn from last night seemed to have broken loose from the dark and walked into the house in physical form. By afternoon, Detective Marcus Harris, the lead investigator on the warehouse case, stepped in with a thick case file. He opened it immediately, no small talk. "We've connected Vincent's warehouse to cash flows running through several mid-tier political organizations and a private investment fund. On the surface, it's sponsorships and consulting contracts. Underneath, it's laundering and coordinated stock pushes and drops benefiting a few of your competitors." Michael's fists tightened. "So it's not just Vincent?" Harris nodded. "It's a network, and the light you shined on it last night made some shadows shift. That's good for us, but dangerous for your family. They'll try to scare you into turning the lights off." When Harris left, Elena pulled Michael and Maya aside. "I've got a lead looking to jump ship from Vincent before he goes down. Name's Carl Benson. He knows about the payoff accounts used to get certain officers to misfile reports." Michael checked his watch. "Where do we meet?" "Basement Cafe on River Street," Elena replied. Patricia cut in, "Meet him if you must, but don't take Maya. Too risky." Maya's mouth curved slightly. "I'm not sitting at home while people decide how to protect my son." Michael exhaled. "We go, but we take 2 cars, 2 entrances." The cafe's basement was dim, the strong scent of roasting coffee like a sensory shield. Carl Benson, gray coat, sleepless eyes, waited, hands restless. He's got people in a few security departments, just to delay files, not erase them. And he's got someone inside your company, high enough to know the big plays. Carl slid over a USB. Chat logs, payment schedules, and he glanced at Maya, a name, Gregory Hale. The air tightened. Hale, Vice President of Strategy, the man who'd once helped Michael through a brutal deal. Maya's voice was low, a high-level mole. Back home, Roland immediately quarantined and decrypted the USB, the logs unspooled, internal meeting schedules appearing in Vincent's chat threads before they happened, board resolutions hitting the exact pressure points in leaked articles, security upgrade plans feeding into bait discussion groups, all from a gold source, icon of a steaming coffee cup, GH. No doubt left. The confrontation with Gregory Hale took place in a small boardroom, only 4 people present: Michael, Gregory, Patricia, and the company lawyer. Michael opened his laptop, projecting onto the wall, chat lines, transfer orders, call logs. Gregory tried to stay calm, but his eyes couldn't leave the coffee cup icon. "Michael, this is a setup," he said. Michael didn't raise his voice, just one question, low and heavy. "For how much?" Silence hung. 2 minutes later, Gregory cracked. "It wasn't for money, just a promise of a seat when you fell. I thought it was harmless intel." "There's no such thing as harmless intel when it puts a child in the crosshairs," Patricia said, her tone cold. Gregory's shoulders slumped. "I'll cooperate, for immunity." The lawyer nodded. "Full disclosure, sworn statement. In exchange, we'll recommend leniency to the investigators." Gregory opened his personal data vault. Vincent's emails, a shadow payroll, a list of journalists' fed stories, even a map of people who could influence certain nodes in the local security apparatus. The network's X-ray came into focus. Vincent was just a loud node in a much bigger web. Meanwhile, Liam's day-to-day life was upgraded into an operation. Maya rearranged school runs, hired a trusted driver, coordinated security into 2 rings. She taught Liam how to spot strangers and set a password rule for anyone claiming to pick him up. "If they don't say the right word, you don't go," she reminded him. Liam repeated it back instantly, serious as a drill. At night, Maya sat with him working on a science model, her hands still tuned to the shadows outside the window. Children have strange ways of healing, if the adults stay long enough. Liam chattered about school while cutting cardboard. Maya smiled, grateful for these grains of peace. One night, a suspicious SUV lingered too long outside the gate, then rolled off. Michael called Roland immediately. "Get the plate, run it." Roland's reply was short. "Already got it." Within hours, he reported back. The car was registered to a shell company linked to one of Vincent's former partners. Michael wrote it down, passed it straight to Detective Harris. On the line, Harris said, "We'll tag the vehicle. Just live normal and stay safe." Living normal now meant learning to laugh after switching off the alarm, having dinner together even with a pulse of watchfulness in the room. Michael started spending more nights at home, reading Liam a chapter before bed. Once, Liam asked, "You'll be here forever, right?" Michael squeezed his son's hand. Forever. From the hall, Maya heard it, that promise like a stitch sewing another patch of reassurance into the thin blanket they all shared. The next morning, Patricia proposed a new media move. "We file for a restraining order against Vincent, and we release part of the network evidence. Not enough to impede the investigation, but enough to frame him as obsessed and dangerous." Michael nodded. "Do it." The statement went out, clean wording, no sensationalism, but it planted a stake. Harrington was no longer on defense. He'd shifted, redefining the narrative. That weekend night, just when it seemed to ease, an unmarked envelope appeared in the mail tray. Inside was a photograph shot through the glass of the greenhouse, Maya bending and smiling at Liam among the plants. The angle was high, distant. Another eye. Michael set the photo down slowly. "He wants to turn our home into his stage." Maya drew a long breath. "Then, we drop the curtain when we choose." She turned to Michael, her voice steady. "Tomorrow, you make the most important thing public, family. When you name it out loud, people whisper less." On the edge of that thought, a plan was already forming. A small event right at the house. Open enough for the community to see, tight enough to keep safe. But before they could reach that dawn, they still had one long night ahead, with shadows prowling beyond the fence. And somewhere in that darkness, Vincent Lang was surely arranging the last pieces he had, preparing for his next move. A gray morning, clouds like a heavy cloth thrown over the city. Maya Williams sat on a bench in the family court hallway, her hands interlaced. Michael Harrington stepped out of the dark wooden door with his lawyer. "The judge will be on the bench in 5 minutes," he said. He looked at Maya. "Are you sure you want to speak yourself?" Maya nodded, her eyes calm. "That night on the frozen lake, I chose to stay. Today I speak to protect Liam." In the courtroom, Detective Marcus Harris summarized the rescue video, the black envelope, the hidden photo, the illegal drone, the intruder, the charred wood. Maya stood, her voice steady. "Anyone who sees us as a target needs to understand one thing. Liam is a child. He needs a home without prying eyes and threats. We've had enough." The judge nodded, gavel tapping lightly. "The court grants a temporary restraining order against Vincent Lang and his representatives within a 300-yard radius of the victim and the Harrington residence. Any violation will result in immediate arrest." A breath left the room like a bowstring releasing. Leaving court, they had no time to celebrate. Patricia Crane hurried over with her phone. "Inside tip, Harold Pierce just called an emergency board meeting this afternoon. They want to force you into temporary leave for being distracted." Michael's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "Fine. Let's walk straight into the den." The boardroom was dim, wood-paneled, curtains half-drawn. Harold folded his hands. "Michael, this is about the company's stability. The press, the police, court orders, all of it keeps you from focusing." Several members nodded, their eyes avoiding his. Michael laid a folder on the table, opening to the page with Gregory Hale's e-signature. "Confession, money flows, leak channels." "Distraction isn't from protecting my family," he said slowly. "It's from some people here forgetting the meaning of the word principle." Harold kept his tone smooth. "No one is saying you're wrong about family, but the market wants calm." Michael drew a breath. "If the market demands silence in the face of threats, the price is our ethics. I won't sell that." He glanced at the screen. Photos of the dockside warehouse, police reports, the restraining order. "Anyone voting for temporary leave, put your name in company history today. In 10 days, I'll call a shareholders meeting and release all of this." The room went so still it seemed sound had been drained away. A normally neutral director cleared his throat. "Perhaps we postpone the vote." Harold gripped his pen, his polite smile a shade too tight. By late afternoon, mist gathered in the air. Liam came home, chattering about the volcano model from science class. Maya laughed, helping him mix vinegar into baking soda. The tang of vinegar briefly covered the tension hanging in the house. That night, just as security changed shifts, the greenhouse heat alarm blared. Michael and 2 guards rushed out, sprinklers already drenching a small fire, licking the eaves of the east side shed. On the grass, a gas can rolled, its fumes stinging the air. Maya clutched Liam in the doorway, the morning's charred wood now a real smell, a real crackle. The fire was out in minutes. Roland Hayes arrived, photographing the scene, lifting a strip of tape from the can. Print trace, wiped, but the east trail cam might have caught a shadow. Detective Harris pulled up, patrol car lights washing the eaves. He looked at the can, the scorch marks. "A drill. He's testing your reaction time." Michael's eyes were sharp, and I'll test his back. That night, Maya tucked Liam in, taking a music box she'd once repaired from a drawer. The wooden lid creaked open, releasing a small, warm tune. "Will the fire come into our house?" Liam whispered. Maya pressed her forehead to his. "No, because our house has many people watching, and we have a password only you and I know, Starlight. If someone doesn't say it right, you don't go." Liam nodded firmly, his eyelids softening with the melody. Downstairs, Michael sat with Patricia, Roland, and Elna at the kitchen table. The yellow light pooled faintly on the wood. Patricia laid out a 2-track plan. Legal. Extend the restraining order. Fast-track Gregory's file. Coordinate with prosecutors. And narrative. Selective interviews. Controlled appearances. Emphasis on child safety and adult responsibility. Roland added the technical track. "I want to set canary traps, dummy documents, each with a unique digital signature on separate channels. If there's another leak, we'll know who." Elena spread out a rough map of Vincent Lang, remaining associates, his favorite escape routes, 2 bars he frequents. He's contracting. A wounded animal will bite at the softest part. Michael nodded. The softest part isn't Maya or Liam, it's our fear. As of tonight, that has no ground left. The next morning, the court approved turning the TRO into a longer temporary order, with GPS requiring Vincent to appear when summoned. Patricia's team fed the media just enough. Measured, calm, but enough for the community to see the line drawn. In the kitchen, Maya stuck a small note on the fridge. "Don't burn yourself to warm the room." Michael spotted it by chance, a half-smile tugging at his mouth. Then we opened the windows for light. The idea of a community garden day flickered in his mind. But before that could come, they had one more thing to clear: the shadows. Night fell again, silent as a windless lake. At the eastern tree line, a small red blink. An embedded camera eye in the brush. From the security room, Roland caught it first. "Got an IR return. I have coordinates." 3 men in black scaled the fence, caught the moment their boots touched ground. In one man's pocket, a hand-drawn map of the garden, a red square round the greenhouse, where Maya and Liam often spent their afternoons. Michael looked at the paper, his chest tightening, then settling into a cold block of resolve. "All right," he said. "The next round is ours." At dawn, Roland Hayes finished building the Canary Token Matrix, 3 fake sensitive documents, each seeded with a different deliberate typo, each distributed through a separate channel: internal email, a secure signal group, and a folder with access for only a handful of people. One was a fake Liam travel schedule with an entirely fictional route. One was a memo of security weaknesses listing non-existent sensors. And one was a draft press conference strategy with a made-up editor's name. "Whoever bites will know the IP address, the time, and the path," Roland said, voice dry as steel. By noon, the first bird sang. The token in the security weaknesses memo was pinged from a cheap VPN, then bounced through a rented server in Florida belonging to a shell company Elena recognized instantly. "Sergeant Caldwell, mid-tier muscle for Vincent," she said. Patricia allowed herself a tactical smile. "We've got behavior and a chain." That afternoon, the second token, the Liam schedule, lit up. A silver sedan was spotted loitering along the fake route. Outer Ring security struck up a conversation under the pretext of checking resident gate passes. The license plate matched one on Roland's fresh list. The driver stiffened when a local patrol car turned onto the street. "He's going to call someone right now," Roland said over comms. "Don't stop him. Let him lead us." Night fell. A crescent moon hanging like a fingernail in the sky. The Harrington attic had become a command post. Screens showing RF spectrum, GPS maps, and a small window streaming infrared footage of the eastern woods. 2117. A drone control signal spiked on the frequency graph. Roland leaned forward. "Source is close. White panel van 400 yards out." Michael glanced at Detective Harris. "How long to get a warrant?" Harris kept it short. "Signals, probable cause. Let's go." They split into 2 teams, police moving on the van's coordinates, the inner ring security team keeping Maya and Liam in the greenhouse, now fitted with bullet-resistant glass 2 days prior. Maya sat across from Liam at the wooden table, pretending to help him with homework, her heartbeat sinking to the soft crackle of the radio. "Starlight," Liam whispered, as if reminding himself. Maya smiled. "Perfect." 21:29, Harris's team closed in. The van door flew open, revealing a gaunt man clutching a controller. "Police, drop the device." He was cuffed before he could hit the gas. On his equipment, Roland found a list of broadcast points, one address flagged in an abandoned industrial warehouse district. Likely the relay hub for Vincent's signals. Intermediate node, Elena muttered. He's rarely at the end point. Always one jump away. Meanwhile, the third token, the press conference strategy, pinged from the IP address of a law office that had once represented Vincent Lang. Patricia nodded like clicking a camera. That's enough framing for tomorrow's story. She drafted a tight press release. We have identified a network engaged in surveillance and information manipulation, targeting a minor and his caregiver. In coordination with law enforcement, we have located the transmission point, apprehended the drone operator, and are expanding the investigation to linked addresses. No heavy words, but each one landed. 2210, raid on the relay site. The industrial building was black as a throat. Police moved in, flashlights slicing the dark. They found a mini-server, antennas, and two techs frantically unplugging cables. One tried to wipe a drive. Roland intercepted. Mine, he said, yanking the power cord and sliding the SSD into an anti-static bag. On a whiteboard, someone had sketched a V-layer diagram, arrows marking device placements around the Harrington property. Harris nodded. That's enough to get a broader warrant. By first light, the Harrington dining room was a makeshift war room. Coffee, donuts, laptops. Gregory Hale, now cooperating, handed over an email map proving Vincent's coordination with two financial partners to tank Harrington's stock price using bad press. Patricia called two trusted investigative reporters. We're sharing files, including court records, no rumors. Michael checked his watch, then looked at Maya. This morning, I'm going on record, short and sharp. 9 a.m., a small podium on the east lawn. No fanfare. Michael stood before a few cameras. In recent weeks, my family has been subjected to unlawful surveillance and threats. Last night, working with police, we apprehended the drone operator and seized a relay station. These actions aren't differences of opinion. They are crimes. We will pursue them fully to protect a 10-year-old boy and the person who saved his life. This is no longer just my family's story. It is a line the community must draw. Children are not tools. He bowed his head, taking no questions. That evening, the board met again. This time, Harold Pierce was the one silent. Two previously hesitant members spoke. Michael, we support your proposed ethics committee, stripping all remaining privileges from Vincent Lang and pursuing civil action. Michael nodded, no smile, but the edges around his eyes eased. That night, Vincent still hadn't surfaced, but his network was shedding parts. The van driver charged and bargaining. The two relay techs indicted for electronic espionage, a law firm under search. On the news, the anchor read, authorities confirm they are investigating a surveillance and defamation scheme linked to former board member Vincent Lang. No more alleged. Now it was confirmed. In rare quiet, Maya and Michael sat on the back porch. No one spoke for a long while. Finally, Michael gave a faint smile. You know, all these years, I thought power was tall walls and heavy gates. Turns out power is knowing when to open the gate for the right people, and closing it to keep out the wrong. Maya leaned her head against the doorframe. And being there when a boy needs someone to soothe him. The chirring of insects stitched the night back together. The next morning, Patricia brought the schedule for a small event, opening the garden to the community. Guest list capped, coordinated with local police and the neighborhood church. This isn't about showing off, she said. It's about resetting the rhythm. We're not hiding, and we're not picking a fight. We're living, Michael looked toward the greenhouse where Liam laughed with Maya among the green leaves. He nodded. We live. Somewhere in the city, Vincent Lang might have been counting his remaining allies, like a man sorting stones on a riverbank after a flood. But even if he had pieces left, the board had changed. The light was sharper, the community more watchful, and in a house that had once trembled under shadows, a boy was learning not to be afraid, because the adults around him had learned to stand tall. The garden opening morning began with the smell of wet grass and the metallic clink of the crew setting up tents. Patricia Crane stood in the middle of the yard, clipboard in hand, speaking rapidly to the security team and local police. One entrance, through the south gate. Exit through the west gate. No large backpacks, no drones. Media can film in Zone A, no zooms on Liam. Detective Marcus Harris nodded, officers fanning out. Roland Hayes set up a small station just outside the greenhouse, screens displaying the 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz bands, GPS map, and gate points. Elena Ramirez checked vendor badges, logo, contract number, driver name. Everything ran like a string tuned tight. Maya Williams retied Liam's polka dot scarf. The boy beamed. Can I show my friends the rose garden? Maya bent to his eye level. Yes, but remember the password? Liam grinned. Starlight. Good. Her worry stayed hidden beneath her smile, like a dagger tucked in a boot, present but unseen. The stream of guests began to flow in. Neighbors, charity representatives, a few credentialed reporters, children darting across the lawn. Michael moved among them, shaking hands, asking questions, listening more than speaking. For a fleeting moment, the house that had been a fortress felt like a home again. Then issue number 1 arrived. A utility truck from Bright Sky Utilities pulled up by the temporary power station. Elena glanced at her list, frowned. Bright Sky changed their logo in 2022. His jacket has the old one. She signaled security. Where are you headed? The man in the hard hat pointed toward the electrical room. Load check. Elena smiled politely. With me, please. Inside, he hesitated in front of the breaker panel. Roland arrived, eyes flicking over the name badge. Kerning's wrong. He made a hand signal. 2 guards locked the man's wrists. Harris appeared, reading his rights. In his pocket, an unlocked phone displayed a text. Switch mode, kill lights 1605. Crowd panics. No mention of explosives or harmful materials, just a plan to spark chaos. But it was enough. Harris's tone was cold. Violating the restraining order through a proxy? You just ruined your boss's day. From a distance, Michael watched the scene play out like a short film. The saboteur stopped before touching the wheel. Issue number 2 flashed on Roland's monitor. A brief 5.8 gigahertz signal spike. Drone launch, 600-yard radius, northeast, he said into the radio. Controller on the roof of the apartment building across the street. Harris dispatched a patrol team. 10 minutes later, they cuffed a man with a controller, a backpack of spare batteries, and VR goggles. No grand speeches, reports and signal logs spoke for themselves. At 15:40, the sun softened. Children ran along the gravel path through the rose garden. Liam slowed before the rose for Mom bush, the one he'd planted in memory of his mother. From a distance, Maya kept him in sight, chatting with an elderly churchwoman who'd just praised the asters. Michael stood at the podium, readying brief remarks for 1600. That was when issue number 3 entered, quiet as a shadow. A man in a baseball cap, work jacket smeared with mud, gloves fraying at the seams. He moved like a gardener, ignoring any eyes on him. He drew near Liam, bending slightly. His voice was low, ashy. "Hey, kid, Starbright." Liam looked up, frowned. He repeated the drill. "What's the password?" "Starbright," the man said again, patient, hand closing on the boy's wrist, firm but not hurting. Liam looked into the stranger's eyes and didn't see Maya there. He took a breath. Not right. He pulled his hand back and stepped away. Maya. Maya heard him. The ambient noise blurred away, leaving only Liam's call, taut as a plucked string. She ran. In 2 strides, she was between the man and the boy, locking his wrist with the reflexes she'd taught herself on nights spent learning not to be afraid. He yanked hard. Maya shifted her stance, dropping his center of gravity onto the gravel. Michael vaulted from the podium. Vincent. 2 syllables like stones hitting the bottom of a well. Not surprise, only the cold of recognition. The cap was low, but the eyes were unmistakable. "Restraining order. You're in violation," Michael said, keeping enough distance not to become the defendant. Harris was already there, cuffs clicking shut before lifting the cap. The face was gaunt, cheeks hollow, but the mouth still curved into an unpleasant smirk. "You open your home to everyone. I'm just one of the everyone." Maya stood in front of Liam, unblinking. Missing one word: respect. Harris read the rights as a few scattered claps broke from guests unsure what to do with the adrenaline. Vincent turned his head, throwing one last line at Michael. "You've burned every bridge." Michael's reply was clipped. "Bad bridges have to burn." In 20 minutes, Patricia had the scene reset. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your cooperation. The incident has been handled. Program continues in Zone B." No panic, no chaos. Just people holding each other's gaze a little longer before choosing to trust daylight over the shadow of a baseball cap. The afternoon slid by, golden light spilling across the greenhouses. Liam held Maya's hand tight. "I said not right," he whispered. Maya smiled, eyes stinging. "You said the truest thing in your life." Michael came beside them, crouched to Liam's level. "I'm proud of you." The boy nodded, then asked, "Dad, are we still keeping the garden open?" Michael looked at the sparkling field of flowers. "I think we should even more." As the sun touched the tree line, Michael stepped to the mic. "Thank you for coming today," he said evenly. "We opened these gates because we believe home isn't just walls and locks. Home is people, those who enter with respect." Today, there was one person who didn't know that word. The law will handle the rest. We will keep living. Applause spread like a soft wave. Somewhere, a youth band's acoustic set resumed, stitching the mood back to its steady rhythm. That night, when the last guest left, Harris called in. Lang's being processed at the station. With the active restraining order, the garden camera footage, and the password testimony, we've got a strong case. Also, from the SSD at the relay site, prosecutors have the payment schedule for the surveillance network. His game is over. Michael thanked him, hung up. He looked at Maya. Neither said victory. Too loud a word. They listened instead to the quieter sound of a heartbeat slowing. On the windowsill, the music box lay open, its melody dripping like honey. Liam leaned on Maya's shoulder, eyes closing. In the garden's corner, the rose for mom bush swayed gently in the breeze, like a woman nodding at sunset, reminding those who remained. Keep the home warm. The following week, spring took surer steps. The news settled into a rhythm. Vincent Lang held without bail, awaiting trial on charges related to surveillance, obstruction, conspiracy to manipulate information, and violating a restraining order. 2 associates indicted under electronic espionage statutes. The implicated law firm searched and its license temporarily suspended. The Harrington Board approved an independent ethics committee, formally removed Lang from all roles, and launched civil action to seek damages. Harold Pierce no longer spoke of temporary leave. Instead, he proposed a responsibility before power charter for the entire executive team. Michael nodded, his face still taut, but the edge in his eyes softened. At home, small things changed first. Liam's nights grew longer, less interrupted by sudden waking when wind rattled the door. Maya no longer sprang up at every gust alert. Her hand still rested on the blanket, but no longer in a fist. Michael learned to be home for reading time, not glancing at his phone when Liam asked an oddly profound question. Why do roses have thorns? To remind us not to hold too tight and forget to see the flower, Michael answered, and realized the reply was for himself as much as for his son. One afternoon, Patricia arrived without her tablet. "You've got 2 choices," she said, sitting on the porch step. 1, close the gates and live quietly in a fortress. 2, open them the right way, set the rules, set the lines, and lead. Both have risks, but only the second one makes meaning. Michael gave a tired smile. "You just write the tagline for my life?" "It was already there," Patricia shrugged. "I just read it out loud." They began planning the Starlight and Rose Fund, a small foundation to support caregivers and children in crisis, from free legal hotlines to funding neighborhood cameras in vulnerable areas. Maya listened, her eyes glinting like glass. If anyone ever wished for someone to stand in the doorway and say, "I'm here," this fund is that answer. The fund's launch was simple, in the Rose Garden, no fanfare. Detective Harris came without his uniform. Denise Carter stayed in the back without a mic. Elena smiled when she saw her own name on a volunteer badge. Roland set up a small booth teaching parents how to activate local alerts and basic home device security. Kids ran in circles, laughing bright. The 3 models from long ago didn't appear. Their names were now faded smudges at the story's edge, like bitter comments drifting away in a stream of decent people. That evening, in the amber-lit study, Michael stood at the window, watching the garden sink into night. "I owe you something," he said when Maya stepped in. "No, many things." He took a deep breath. "I'm sorry. Not just for the night of the crystal glass, but for the years I saw without seeing, was present without showing up, and thank you for staying even when no one deserved you to stay." Maya leaned against the doorway, shaking her head gently. "No one deserves in that way, Michael. People become worth it when they choose again, day after day." Michael chuckled. "Then let me choose again, every day." "Okay," Maya said, her eyes soft as velvet. Liam peeked in, holding the music box. "Can I open it?" The tune trickled out, small as a whisper. Michael lifted Liam onto the chair, continued the unfinished chapter. Maya sat beside them, saying nothing. Somehow, the room had relearned the art of breathing. Weeks later, the preliminary hearing. Maya testified, brief, complete, without embellishment. She spoke of the frozen lake, the dinner handhold, the password, and the man in the baseball cap who said the wrong word that revealed everything. Michael sat behind her, fingers laced, eyes fixed on the back of her collar, as if to keep each thread from snapping. Vincent Lang listened in silence, his lawyer grimacing. The judge upheld the restraining order, approved higher bail and electronic monitoring. Prosecutors added the surveillance network evidence from the seized SSD. The defense moved to suppress it, but was denied. The story had left the realm of whispers. It was now inked in the record. Outside the courthouse, Mrs. Daniels, the churchwoman who'd brought cookies, waited. "Your mother," she told Maya. "If she were here, she'd stand at a distance, say nothing, just nod." Maya hugged her, suddenly feeling 18 again, working night shifts and believing the world would always be cruel. No, the world stayed cruel long enough that you had to do something. And sometimes it got a little better because of patient hands. That sunset, Michael and Maya went into the garden with Liam. The boy held a young rose plant, its roots wrapped in dark soil. "I'm planting a new rose," Liam said, "and I'm naming it Starlight." They dug a small hole, placed the plant, patted the earth. Michael rested a hand on his son's shoulder. "You know, some roses bloom late, but when they do, the whole garden changes scent." "Like our house, Dad?" Michael smiled. "Like our house." Night came, the wind through the pines sounding like someone shuffling old memories. Patricia texted, "The responsibility before power charter passed. Press is welcoming it." Roland sent a photo of his Garden Day security booth with the caption, "The kids taught me how to use my phone. I taught them to turn on 2FA. Elena messaged, 'Tomorrow I start the new job, running the fund. Harris.' Finally, a case I'm proud to tell my daughter about." Maya stood by the window, looking out over the dew-wet lawn. Michael stepped closer, close enough for breath to almost mingle. "There's a note you stuck on the fridge. Don't burn yourself to warm the room," he said. "I think it's time to open the window for the light, like you said." Maya tilted her head, smiled. "The window's already open, Michael. You just heard the wind for the first time." Upstairs, the music box sang again. Liam dozed, clutching his stuffed rabbit. Outside, the newly planted starlight swayed gently, learning to breathe with the garden. No applause, no fireworks, just the slow steps of 3 people leaving the window, turning down lights, leaving behind a warm house. A house that now knew power wasn't thicker walls, but a wider heart. Not silence in the face of wrong, but standing tall against it. Not the cold blood of shattered crystal, but the warm tremble of a music box in a child's hands. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the glass roof. Liam ran to the porch, pointing at the new rose. "It's growing." Maya looked, feeling a steady beat in her chest like a clock's measure. "Yes," she said, "and so are we." And somewhere, the man who once thought he could control everything was learning the lesson he'd long refused. When people choose each other every day, the dark has nowhere to store its dreams.